Under the bright electric lights of a charged cruiserweight battleground, the arena hummed with anticipation, an air thick with tension, sweat, and the kind of nervous excitement that only a true clash of styles can conjure. Fans from every corner of the boxing world leaned over the rails and crowded into their seats, knowing they weren't just here for a fight. They were here for a lesson. On this night, the undefeated Ukrainian maestro, Oleksandr Usyk, stepped into the ring, carrying with him not just the golden glow of an Olympic champion, but the weight of expectation from a nation that saw him as their next great heir to the throne of technical brilliance. Calm, almost playful, he soaked in the moment with a quiet smile, the type only a man who trusts his rhythm, his angles, and his destiny could wear. Across from him stood Thabiso "The Rock" Mchunu, a uniquely shaped puzzle from South Africa, short, compact, elusive, an awkward defensive craftsman who frustrated fighters bigger, stronger, and more heralded than himself. Tonight, he wasn't here to play the underdog, he was here to rewrite the script. As the referee delivered the final instructions, "This has to be clean, turn to your corners and await the bell." Both fighters locked eyes, neither blinking. Mchunu's stoic gaze promised complication, traps, counters, and rhythm-breaking timing. Usyk's calm stare offered something else entirely, calculation. The murmurs faded, the bell rang, and instantly the stylistic chess match began. One fighter searching for unpredictable openings from a crouched, awkward stance, while the other glided like a dancer, circling shadows, looking for the exact moment to unleash his southpaw brilliance. From the opening seconds, it became clear that this fight would not follow the typical Usyk script. Mchunu's rhythm was strange, almost anti-rhythm, popping quick right jabs, slipping low, darting away, refusing to give Usyk the steady tempo he thrives on. The Ukrainian, usually so fluid and expressive, suddenly found himself cautious, waiting, analyzing. The crowd sensed it too. The champion was reluctant to throw his signature left hand. It wasn't fear, it was respect. Mchunu's timing was unpredictable, his movements jerky yet intentional, and each time Usyk stepped in, Thabiso answered with sharp, stinging counters that snapped Usyk's head just enough to warn him, "Don't play with me tonight." Commentators spoke of styles from different continents, Eastern European rhythm versus South African angles, and how this kind of matchup can leave even elite champions searching for answers. Usyk's face remained calm, but his feet worked overtime, probing, trying to decode the puzzle in front of him. Mchunu's jab, although not powerful, was precise, catching Usyk off the shoulder, tapping him on the cheek, touching him just enough to slow his advance. By the end of the third round, the judges had split opinions. One thing was certain: Mchunu was not here to be overwhelmed. Usyk's corner urged patience, reminding him that the openings would come. But patience was difficult when every misstep earned a counter, every feint drew a sharp reply, and every advance felt like walking into a maze with shifting walls. Still, beneath the frustration, something was beginning to change. Usyk was studying, adapting, reprogramming, and slowly, ever so slowly, he began to find the pocket where Mchunu's head would be, not where it currently was. By the fourth and fifth rounds, the tide began turning. Usyk, who had spent the early rounds collecting data like a master mathematician, finally started solving the code. He doubled the jab, cut sharper angles, stepped around Mchunu's defensive shell, and began landing the left hand that had been holstered for so long. Suddenly, the fight no longer looked awkward, it looked intentional. Usyk's movements mimicked those of his friend and influence, Vasyl Lomachenko, pivoting left, circling right, forcing Mchunu to reset again and again until openings appeared like cracks in a dam. The champion's punches came in clusters, not single shots. Fast taps, quick misdirections, then a heavy straight left over the top. The crowd roared as Usyk's fists painted patterns across Mchunu's guard, and the South African's early confidence seemed to fade under the pressure of this growing storm. Still, Mchunu remained dangerous. He fired sharp counters, especially the right hook that repeatedly snapped Usyk's head and reminded everyone that the challenger was far from helpless. Yet Usyk kept building momentum. The Ukrainian's timing sharpened, his footwork tightened, and his hand speed became a weapon Mchunu could no longer fully predict. In the sixth round, the breakthrough came, a left uppercut perfectly timed as Mchunu dipped low, sending him to the canvas. The crowd erupted, the tension broke, and Usyk nodded to himself, as if saying, "I have you now." Though Mchunu rose, his rhythm had been cracked. His reaction slowed. Usyk sensed it. The fight had officially turned into the champion's world. After the first knockdown, Usyk no longer waited. He advanced like a man who had solved the code entirely, each step calculated, each punch thrown with escalating confidence. Mchunu swung counters, some landing, but none powerful enough to halt the tide. Usyk had unlocked his rhythm, and once that happens, he becomes a force almost impossible to deter. He mixed jabs to the head with hooks to the body, slid effortlessly around Mchunu's guard, and fired uppercuts through openings that only a fighter of his precision could see. Thabiso, tough and proud, refused to fold. He landed body shots of his own and even caught Usyk with crisp counters that delighted the crowd. But they lacked the sting they carried earlier. The storm was simply too relentless. In round 9, Usyk surged again. A sharp left hand cracked Mchunu backward, and moments later another combination snapped the challenger's head up. Then came the second knockdown, an accumulation of precise shots that forced Mchunu to crouch, to retreat, to touch the canvas, not from a single punch, but from the suffocating pressure of Usyk's brilliance. A final left hand over the top buckled Mchunu, and a clean hook followed. The third knockdown crashed him to the floor, and this time, the referee knew enough was enough. Lou Moret stepped between them, waving his arms, ending a fight that had transformed from tactical chess into complete domination. As the referee waved it off, and the bell rang to signify the end, the arena exploded in applause. A thunderous acknowledgement of what they had witnessed, a world champion tested early, challenged deeply, and forced to evolve in real time. Usyk didn't celebrate wildly. He didn't pound his chest. He simply smiled, raised his gloves, and looked toward the crowd with the quiet confidence of a man who had shown yet another layer of his genius. Across the ring, Mchunu sat on the stool, breathing heavily but proudly. He had given Usyk one of the most difficult stylistic puzzles of his career, forcing him into a fight that was more cerebral, more complex, and more revealing than many expected. When the announcer declared still undefeated and still the WBO cruiserweight champion of the world, Oleksandr Usyk, the Ukrainian nodded as if acknowledging not just victory, but the journey through adversity that made it meaningful. The crowd stood for both men, applauding the champion's brilliance and the challenger's heart. In the aftermath, analysts spoke of Usyk's adaptability, his intelligence, his ability to shift gears like a race car, roaring from third to sixth without warning. They highlighted his growth, his creativity in the ring, and the way he overcame the early frustrations with patience and precision. This fight wasn't merely a knockout, it was a warning, a declaration, a message whispered across the cruiserweight division and eventually the heavyweight world he would one day conquer. If you frustrate him, he adapts. If you pressure him, he angles. If you solve him, he rewrites the problem entirely. On this night, Oleksandr Usyk didn't just win, he evolved. And evolution, in boxing, is the mark of a legend in the making.